If you are on the path of developing your masculinity, of stepping into your personal path and power as a man, then semen retention is kind of like an accelerator that can help you go towards that situation that much more faster. Now, I have been on this journey for a little over 3 years now, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I wish I knew before starting on the journey of semen retention. And if you stick to the very end of this video, you are going to save yourself a lot of frustration, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, because I'm going to share with you the 5 critical insights that will allow you to get even more from this journey and actually develop yourself into the man that you know you're capable of being by implementing this practice. So let's just dive into it right here, right now. The first critical insight is that semen retention is just the start. Okay? I remember when I was caught up in that cycle of destructive behavior patterns of every single morning, every single night, busting a nut. I was caught up in that ritual, caught up in that routine. I found out about NoFap. I knew that I needed to stop because I was letting go of my life force energy. I knew that this is something that I needed to stop. I was reading about all these benefits. I thought that if I could just let go of pornography, if I could just let go of busting nuts, then I would just somehow, some way find myself in a situation where everything in my life was going according to plan. Well, that is not how it turned out, right? Because semen retention is just the start, and it's just the start of a very different journey, okay? Because what it comes down to is this, right? The primal desires that we have as human beings, right? Our limbic system brain, which is our mammalian part of the brain, which has been developing over millions of years, it is driven through the pleasure principle. It moves us towards pleasure, away from pain, right? And the fact is that busting a nut, right? Survive and reproduce, these are our primal instincts. So when we have this compulsion to bust a nut, that has actually evolutionarily been programmed into us, okay? But the latest and greatest part of the human mind, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to go beyond the pain and pleasure principle, is the practice of semen retention, right? This is really about choosing purpose over pleasure. And this is the start, because once you can actually begin to realize that I do not have to go off the temptations of my body, I do not have to do what my mind tells me, right? Then you actually wake up to a different journey. You start on a different journey, and that is the journey of spirituality. Now, a lot of guys are like, oh, okay, I'm not spirituality, that's not for me. But understand, right? It's like when your mind is telling you one thing and your body is telling you one thing, right? For example, it's like, I really want to bust a nut. It feels good. My body tells me it's good. My mind is telling me it's good. But on a higher level, I understand there's not doing me any benefit. And that is the definition of spirituality. When your mind and your body are telling you that you want to do something, but you choose not to do that thing, right? What is this aspect of yourself that is making you go down that path, the different path that you know is best for you, right? And this is not only about semen retention. This is about you choosing purpose over pleasure, right? This is about you moving forward in the face of growth. This is about you doing what's right, even though what feels good in the moment might be a different path over there, right? So it's just a different start over there. And it's not only semen retention. Another example that comes to mind is like, when you're hiking up a mountain, or you're doing some strenuous activity, your mind is telling you to stop, and it's so uncomfortable, and your body's so tired, and you have this lactic acid pumping in your legs, but you keep going. What is it that makes you keep going? What is it that drives you to keep going? That is the eternal question. And that is when you wake up to the reality that you do not have to follow down the path where your mind and your body are leading you down. And of course, semen retention is just the start of that journey, because that is our primal instinct. That is our, primal evolutionary drive to go and bust a nut. But when we choose purpose over pleasure is when we actually overcome that and become something more than we were before. Now, the second critical insight about semen retention that I wish I knew before I started was that without transmutation, semen retention is useless, okay? Without transmutation, semen retention is useless. Until something is used, it is useless. It's the same with everything in our life, right? Until money is used, It is useless. Until semen retention is used, it is useless. Semen retention is not the end in itself. Like so many of us have been conditioned to think from reading about the benefits. So if I just do semen retention, everything in my life will be all good. No, it's not about that. It's about what you will direct this energy towards. Okay, understand, I've mentioned this in so many different videos, but it's worth re-emphasizing because so many guys are confused about what exactly this means, like how it actually benefits us. Understand that the drive to procreate is our creative energy, right? Our regenerative energy. And when we are not letting it outside of us, we can actually transmute it within us, right? I have a different video on the chakras, okay? I will link out to it above as well on how semen retention links to the chakras. But what it comes down to in essence is about using that energy that you now have in order to conceive of a future beyond the one that you're experiencing right now. Okay, it's so important, it's so critical for you to have a vision, to have creative vision, which is your ability to exercise your thought, to entertain a future that aligns with what you actually want out of life. Okay, because so many of us get caught up in the cycle of destructive behavior patterns and it's so difficult to break out of them. But the only way to break out of them is if you can transmute that energy, right? Because that energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed from one form to another. Okay, that's not something I made up. That is the second law of thermodynamics. That is the way that this universe functions. So it's so important that you actually transmute this energy, which is another way of saying transform this energy, right? This creative energy. And what I suggest to you, like we all are here as creators to create something that has never been created before. Your unique combination of genetics and environmental exposures and your upbringing and your experiences that will never be repeated, that has never been occurred in the past, right? And that is why you are here to create something unique. You are here to offer a unique service to the world. And once you can begin to cultivate that creative energy and get that spark going, then it's like, okay, how can I create myself anew? How can I create new things in this world? How can I be of service to other people, right? It's like, ultimately, we are here to be creative beings. We are creators, but when we let go of our creative energy, then we succumb to the conditioning of our environment, then we succumb to the instructions, we succumb to the expectations of others around us. Once we retain that energy, then it's about transmuting it. And what I offer to you, what I suggest to you is to transmute it towards creating, right? Whether that's music, whether that's a vision for your future, whether that is writing, whether that is poetry, whether that is YouTube videos, right? How can you create something that can be of value to someone else? How can you create a vision for your own future? Okay, and that brings us nicely into the third point, right? Which is the only way to end relapse, which is future focus. Okay, this links back to the second point, but I remember, when I got started on this journey, it was so difficult because the body has been conditioned deeply to go down this path of pleasure, right? And every time that you do something that gives you that dopamine spike, aka bust a nut, then it is way easier for you to do that again. This is known in neuroscience as Hebb's law. Nerve cells that fire together wire together, which basically means that each time you get pleasure from a certain activity, then your brain cells literally arrange themselves so that it is easier and smoother to repeat that activity again and again and again. And this is exactly why it is so difficult to break out of this cycle once we are caught up in it. Even though we understand intellectually that we have to let go of this, it becomes very difficult to actually do so. It becomes very difficult to align our behaviors with that, because our body has become conditioned with that. So the only way to end relapse once and for all, okay, because so many of us are on this path, we're like, oh, I relapsed, 130. I remember I was at this point, I was like, oh man, 60, 80 days, something like that. It was like over half a year, and I was like relapse, and then I was like thinking, why, And that's because first and foremost, I confused semen retention as the end in itself. I thought that is the only thing that I was supposed to do, and that caused me a bunch of other frustrations. I'll leave out a video in the dialogue box, whatever it is, to show you the primary dangers of semen retention as well. But ultimately, it's like, if you don't know where you are headed, if you don't know what that vision is for the future, then you just succumb to what feels good in the moment. Okay, understand that as human beings, as creative beings, the one ability that we have that distinguishes us from every other being out there on this planet, at least, right, is the ability to creatively imagine a future that does not exist right now. Okay, that is something that you, me, and every one of us has a unique capacity to do. And when we can emotionally embrace that future vision, right, only then can we let go of pleasure in the moment, because we are moving towards that future, right? It links back to, again, the purpose over pleasure, right? The purpose over the pleasure, because if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have the vision, if you don't have a creative future that you are driven towards, that excites you. I emphasize this again and again in my videos because I know this is something that so many of us are lacking, right? Which is a vision that excites us. And then we get caught up in procrastination. We get caught up in self-sabotage. We get caught up in relapsing. These are all symptoms of the deeper root cause, which is the lack of a vision that excites you. If you truly had a vision that was inspiring to you, that was motivating to you, that was something that you felt enthusiastic about, something that you felt excited about, then you would forego the current pleasure. You would sacrifice that current pleasure because you know you are working towards a bigger picture. You know that you are moving towards fulfillment rather than pleasure in the moment, right? Of course you enjoy the journey. Of course you enjoy the process. But it's really about that vision giving us that direction so that we know, okay, right here, right now, this behavior that I'm about to do, it does not align with that vision. And therefore that vision becomes a filter for our decisions on a day-to-day basis. Now, if this is something that you are lacking in your life right now, I encourage you to check out the Monk Mode Challenge. Now, at the time of this recording, the Monk Mode Challenge is not open, but it's a 30-day journey of self-illumination where it's about uncovering the deep wisdom within us so that we can create that clarity for the future, so that we can have the discipline to choose the right thing over the easy thing. Okay, I will leave a link out in the description, or you can go to monkmodechallenge.com. I think at the time of this recording, there should be a wait list over there so you can sign up for the email list. And when we do go live next month, you can sign up for that in order to walk through the step-by-step process on actually getting clarity for your future. Okay, because that's the only way to end relapse, is if you have a future that compels you, that excites you. Otherwise, then the default setting that we have in our limbic system is just to default to what feels good right now, okay? Now, the fourth key insight over here is extremely critical, is that you can orgasm on semen retention, okay? Now, I have published videos about this on the past, but again and again, every time I mention an idea like this, a lot of guys are caught up in the belief system that ejaculation is the same thing as orgasm, which is not the truth, okay? Because if you study deeper into the text of Taoism, they talk about that of the art of sexual kung fu, which is really about separating ejaculation from orgasm. The thing is that since we were little kids, we've been conditioned to associate ejaculation with orgasm as being the same thing. But the reality is that you can enjoy a deep, pleasurable, and fulfilling relationship with your significant other. And if you don't have a partner right now, and you have let go of pornography, because this gets a bit of a slippery slope, because it's like on one end, you know, so many of us are addicted to busting nuts, and then when we try to go down the path of semen retention, of solo cultivation, aka making love to yourself and orgasming without ejaculation, it becomes kind of a slippery situation. Because if we are still having these destructive tendencies and addictive tendencies to busting nuts, and then we try to do this, then it can kind of get mushed up. But if you are past the point of 90 days where you realize that, okay, I am no longer a slave to my compulsions and impulsive behaviors of busting a nut, then you can go down the path of actually exercising the muscles, the pubococcygeus muscle, the PC muscle, okay, the muscles that you actually use to force out your pee or stop your pee. You can exercise that through Kegels. Okay, I have another video on that as well. I will link out to it above, either one of these places, and you can learn about those exercises. But understand that it really comes after you can let go of these destructive behaviors, after you know and you're certain and you're confident that you no longer are dependent on this addictive tendency. then you can go down that path. And then when you cultivate that energy on yourself, when you actually get to the point of orgasming without ejaculation, then you can actually go and have an incredible experience with your partner and make like have some of the best, deeply fulfilling highest highs that you actually experience. And in sexual kung fu, they talk about how this is actually an experience of transcendence, where the division between subject and object disappears. You become one with your partner, you become one with all that is. But that is a different tangent over there. It's just important to understand this point, because if you get caught up like I did in just thinking that I was never going to bust a nut in my life again, and then the energy getting trapped, and then me getting frustrated, and me getting angry, and me not actually being able to create and cultivate a deep, fulfilling relationship, right? That just gets us in a negative loop. But once you understand this, you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And once you can actually experience a whole body orgasm versus the ejaculatory momentary orgasm, it's like very difficult to compare, because that is a very, very difficult, different and ecstatic experience compared to the momentary experience of ejaculatory orgasm. Okay, very important to understand. And the fifth and final critical insight about semen retention over here is that energy is the ultimate currency. Okay, everything is energy vibrating at a frequency, as Nikola Tesla would say. And energy is really what it comes down to, because so many men are confused about semen retention. They're like, does it work? Does it not work? Like I say that, forget about that. Just think about energy, right? They talk about in the Taoist text that semen is produced through the contribution of every one of your body's organs, right? Because it contains the essence of a whole new life. It contains the essence of developing into an entire new human being. So in that sense, they actually hypothesize or posit that this actually is created through the contribution of all of your body's organs, to all of your body's energy systems. And therefore, when you let go of it, then your body has to contribute more energy to create more of it, right? But if you retain it, then you actually have more energy left over to go and do the other things in your life, like live your purpose, like create your vision, like create your path. And I know that this can sound kind of esoteric for some people. Some people are very attached to the material world. If that's you, you're like, I'm all about the science. Like you're saying the semen is created through all of our organs. What's the proof about that? Well, understand that science in itself is a method of questioning. And in my research and experience and diving deep into all of these different topics, what I have come to realize is that science is not settled. Science is a process of questioning, of thinking. It's a means of expanding our awareness. And what is coming down to, even when you dive deep into the rabbit hole, the quantum physics, you realize that quantum physicists are coming up with the same conclusions that these ancient mystics and seers and sages have been talking about for millennia. Right? So it's like, how do they know that? I don't know how they know those things, right? I don't know how they know whether semen was created through every single organ and how 1 drop of semen is equal to 100 drops of blood. I don't know how they know that stuff. But in my research, it has come to the conclusion that, the latest breakthroughs in the deepest science is actually relating back to the ancient mystics and what they've been talking about for millennia. So maybe they are tapping into something that is beyond the realm of our intellectual understanding. But energy is the ultimate currency, right? Everything is energy. And if you don't actually let go of it, then you have more of it within you, and you can go and create more value in the marketplace, right? Money is energy. Money is an exchange of currency, right? It's an exchange of energy. And if you have more energy, then you have more ability to create results and progress in your life, right? People talk about the resources of time and money, right? But the fact is that we all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? What separates two people is not the amount of time that they have in a day. What separates them is the energy that they bring into and the energy that you bring into your 24 hours determines what you actually get done, determines how productive that you are in your 24 hours as well. Right? On the flip side, money, right? Money is always something you can make more of. But if you don't have the energy to even get out of bed in the morning, it would be impossible for you to actually go and create more value in the marketplace. Okay, so ultimately, it comes down to the energy that you have, and the creative energy, the one thing that separates us from every other being on this planet, is what makes the difference between someone who's crushing it, between someone who is moving towards their goals, their dreams, their hopes, their ambitions, from someone who is just sitting there and having a pipe dream about whether they would move there or not. Okay, so with that, I conclude this video. I hope that these 5 insights can serve you as much as they have served me. If you found value in this video, click the like button, and it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you have not already. With all that being said, leave a comment below letting me know your #1 takeaway in this video. Let's open up the discussion so that we can dive deeper and I can help you in any way that I can. But I will leave you in the peace and power of the one infinite creator, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, and I will also leave a playlist for the seminal retention secrets, which you can check out to dive deeper into all the other stuff that I have made on this topic. Okay, much love to you, take care, and I will catch you in the next one.